In the nonprofit world, there are a lot of moving pieces when it comes to receiving a contribution from a grantor, such as an organization or a corporation. A contribution can be money, goods, or services that are given to the nonprofit without the expectation of receiving something of equal value in return. So if a grantor gives a nonprofit $5,000, they're not expecting to receive something valued at $5,000 in exchange. They're giving the contribution as a way to support the nonprofit that is fulfilling their mission. A grant is a type of contribution. In this video, we're going to walk through the steps for how to record unconditional and conditional grants. But it's important to understand the difference between the two types of grants because it's going to affect how we record them in QuickBooks Online. An unconditional grant is given without a requirement on its use. So it could be used for building improvements or operating expenses. It's up to the nonprofit to decide. A conditional grant must meet two criteria. The first criteria is that a barrier must be overcome. So a barrier could be a requirement to provide 3 art classes in a month or to hire a Spanish-speaking counselor. And the second criteria is a right to return the funds or to not pay them. So if a nonprofit already received the funds and they didn't meet the requirements, then they'd have to return the funds or they wouldn't be paid in the first place. Before we start recording grants in QuickBooks Online, we need to turn on a feature called Locations, which will allow us to categorize transactions as with donor restrictions or without donor restrictions. You'll need to use QuickBooks Online Plus or Advanced to access this feature. First, you'll need to go to the gear icon and click on it, and then click on Company Settings, and you'll click on Advanced on the left-hand side of the screen, and then you'll scroll down until you see the section called Categories, and you want to ensure that Track Locations is on. Now the next step is to go back to the gear icon, and then you'll click on All Lists and click on Locations. You're going to use the New button to create 2 locations, and you'll put the names in the name field. However, these have already been created, so one will be called With Donor Restrictions, and the other one will be called Without Donor Restrictions. Now you'll need to create a liability account called Deferred Revenue. Click on Transactions, and then Chart of Accounts, and then click on the New button, and the account name will be Deferred Revenue. The account type will be Other Current Liabilities, and the detail type will be Deferred Revenue, and then you'll click Save. Then you'll need to create a service product that links to the Deferred Revenue account, so you'll go to the gear icon, and then click on Products and Services, and then click on the New button, and click on Service. The name will be Deferred Revenue, and you want to be sure that the box for I sell this product service to my donors is checked, and the income account that we'll use is Deferred Revenue. And then you'll click Save and Close. Now we're going to record a grant. For an unconditional grant, we're going to create a pledge, otherwise known as an invoice, based on the date on the award letter. To create a pledge, we'll click on New, and then Pledge, and the donor name is County of Alameda, and the award letter was dated June 4th. You can see that the box for location shows up because we turned on that feature, and you see we have the option of with donor restrictions or without donor restrictions. In this case, it's without donor restrictions. This is an unconditional grant, and we're going to categorize this as county grant for $50,000, and then click Save and Close. We're not using a class, so I'm going to click Yes to continue. Let's take a look at how to display locations in the Statement of Activity. To display locations in the Statement of Activity report, underneath Display Columns By, we'll click on the drop-down arrow and then select Locations and then Run the report. And here you can see that the column without donor restrictions is displaying the grant from the County of Alameda. Notice that the funds appear under County Grants when we run the Statement of Activity using the accrual basis accounting method. This is because the funds are being recognized before they have been received, but they don't show up under the cash basis. To receive the payment, we'll click on New and then Receive Payment. And the donor name is County of Alameda. And the payment date was June 12th. They paid by check and it was deposited into the Chase checking account. And then we'll click on the pledge. That was for $50,000, which is the amount that we received. And then we'll click on Save and Close. Now that we've received the payment, we'll run the Statement of Activity report again using the cash basis. Here you can see that the funds appear. For a grant with conditions that have already been met, we'd follow the same process. So we'd create a pledge based on the date on the award letter, and we'd record the payment. The process differs for a grant with conditions that have not been met. We're going to start by creating a pledge. So we'll click on New and then Pledge. And the donor this time is the County of San Joaquin. The award letter was dated June 9th. And this time we're going to select with donor restrictions because this grant has conditions. We're going to use the liability account, deferred revenue, and that's because we have to meet the conditions before the funds can be used. This grant was for $25,000, and then we'll click Save and Close. We're not using a class, so I'll click Yes to continue. You can see the deferred revenue on the statement of financial position. Let's say that the grantor requires a nonprofit to hire a Spanish-speaking counselor in order to keep the funds. Once that condition is met, then we're going to use a journal entry to move the fund from our liability account, deferred revenue, to our revenue account, county grants. To create a journal entry, we'll click on New, and then Journal Entry, and this will be dated June 18th. We're going to use the account deferred revenue, and we're going to debit it to remove the money from the liability account. So $25,000, which was from our donor, County of San Joaquin, and we're going to credit county grants for $25,000, again using the donor name, County of San Joaquin, and for location, this is now without donor restrictions, and then we'll click Save. We're not using a class, so yes to continue. Now the $25,000 appears on the Statement of Activity in accrual basis under County Grants using the column without donor restrictions. But remember, you still need to record the payment. Remember, you can always watch this video again and pause it as you're going through the steps in your QuickBooks Online account. In our next video, you'll learn about recording reimbursement-based grants and grants with restrictions. As always, thanks for tuning in. I love that we're on this bookkeeping journey together.